Um, my first experience with mood altering, mind altering drugs was when I was younger than 5, and I was sitting on my uncle's lap and he made me drink a beer. And I got very sick and I never took another sip of beer in my entire life. And I lived in Germany for 4 years with Oktoberfest. I've never had another beer. The second first for me was, again, alcohol stuff. My parents were doing the bridge club thing, and they were hosting the night. So there were a lot of adults drinking aperitifs and whatever. My sister, Mary Lou, and I went into the kitchen and used green food coloring and mixed it with water and put it in a fancy glass and walked through the living room as if we were 7-year-old adults. I had another first with alcohol. It's been part of my life. Actually, this was marijuana. I was about 14 at a friend's house. Things happened. I smoked. It was a long time ago. It was mostly seeds and sticks, but I smoked. I did not get stoned. They gave me some to take home. I tried it again. I got rip roaring stoned on seeds. And I called my best friend and I said, I'm freaking out. She said, you're paranoid, go downstairs, drink some orange juice, you'll come down like that. And I did, but that never worked again in my life. OJ never worked again in my life. So the next first was, I was introduced to alcohol and pills by a nun who took me into her bed afterwards. And many times after that, I used alcohol and drugs and pills and whatever to deal with anxiety, post-traumatic stress, and that whole scene. But I went on to explore drugs many times in my life. And one time I was in Amsterdam. It was not my first trip to Amsterdam, but it was my first trip to explicitly explore the coffee shops of Amsterdam, where the menu offered you Northern Lights and Purple Haze and White Widow and space cakes, if I remember, magic mushrooms. This was the menu at a coffee shop. And if you were really, really desperate, they would actually give you a cup of coffee, but that's not what the coffee shops were about. Later that night, I woke up in the red light district of Amsterdam on the ground without my passport, without my money, without a memory of how I got there. I found out later that I had been given a joint, whatever they called it at the time, laced with heroin, and I got very sick. And this man, this elegantly dressed man in a suit that cost more than my entire trip to Amsterdam, very entitled, walked by me, stopped. He had a monocle, actually. I've never seen one before or since. He had a monocle. He put it up to his eye and he looked down at me. I was covered in vomit. And he looked down at me with absolute disgust. And he had a cane that had a gold tip on it. And he hit me with the gold tip. I was so embarrassed and so shamed, really. And before he left, he spit on the ground next to me, this elegantly man dressed. I mean, it was really sad. And I met eyes with this woman, this prostitute in the red light district. She had this red light behind her, and she had met my eyes a few times, and I had lowered my eyes. I was absolutely ashamed. She came over to me. She left her room. She came over to me. She handed me, I'll never forget this, really. She handed me a can of Coke, and she said, this was our ashtray, but I rinsed it out for you. I want you to take a few moments and rinse your mouth out. This woman who didn't know me at all showed me such compassion. It was tough to accept and hard to talk about still today, but I know now, today, all these years later, that firsts can be scary, they can be dangerous, they can be life-threatening, they can be filled with grace, or they can be filled with heroin. So firsts for me, they changed my life. They've altered my life. I'm sober and clean today. They've altered my life trajectory, and they've saved my soul. Thank you for listening.